So it's just because it was named after a giant barrel where you stored crackers in?
I'm
like
sure.
A barrel kind of, to me, is like often almost like a trash can and like crackers in there and they're all like crumbly. It just doesn't sound like a good diner experience.
It is most prominently known because all of their locations are like right on the highway.
Yeah.
So like it was started travelers
as a country store adjunct to promote gasoline sales at Shell oil stations by Dan Evans in 1969.
Oh wow.
How about that?
First restaurant was close to Interstate 40 in Lebanon, Tennessee.
They just opened one up out here in California.
A lot of Lebanons in the States.
There is a Cracker Barrel somewhere in the Southern California region.
Now, what's the name of that other?
We had one in Champaign when I was in college.
There was a
Cracker Barrel means plain, simple, and unsophisticated.
Oh, well, okay.
Unsophisticated.
It emerged from the country stores of the early 1900s. Part of the fact that there were barrels of crackers in those stores. And those country stores were considered simple, plain, and
unsophisticated.
A family friend of mine, when I was a child, gave me advice that I remember to this day. Don't purchase things directly out of barrels. People do strange things.
Something that echoes in your mind regularly.
Yeah. For whatever reason, he was talking about pickles. That, like, you ever know that some like delis and stuff like will have like a pickle barrel and you can like grab your pickle out of it.
So according to Southern Living, in these country stores that would have their barrels full of soda crackers for sale, people would visit the store and stand around the barrel chatting and catching up on the day's news. So Cracker Barrel is meant to be evocative of a place where you can go and just sit around and talk to good folk.
The Cracker Barrel was the first internet.
So it was kind of the water cooler of the South.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Well, once you eat all those crackers, you got to move to the water cooler because you're
dry.
You're probably thirsty.
Yeah.
For me and all those crackers.
I'm trying to think if there was a
Roger, did you? You did.
Yeah, I started. I mentioned 2 minutes ago. I started this.
I'll have to revisit this when we're done.
We're back on
Let's
go.
Stand at attention, tech news people.
Stay out of those barrels
of preparation.
Whether they have crackers in them or not.
I consider Daily Tech News Show, now that I know the origin, to be sort of the Cracker Barrel of tech news.
That's it. New branding.
On the side of every highway, you'll find us.
You have DTNS grits.
All right, here we go. 3, 2.
The Daily Tech News Show is powered by me, but I couldn't do it on my own. I'd like to thank the over 4,800 other patrons who help keep this show going each day. Visit dailytechnewsshow.com/support if you too would like to help power this show.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, June 11th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And standing right next to Tom, I'm Justin Robert Young, also in Los Angeles.
Hey, wait, how'd you get over there? That's weird.
I flew.
Wow. Boy, are your arms tired.
Oh, you both did it at the same time, didn't you?
Roger Chang, thank you for joining in on the stupidest joke in the world and producing the show.
Don't mention it.
I won't again. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Snap announced Clear Chats, which lets users delete any message sent to another individual or a group on Snapchat. This includes text chats, stickers, audio, and voice notes, and any photo or video snaps sent from memories. Snap is also launching the second-gen spectacles on Amazon in the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada for $150.
Instagram has invited reporters to a June 20th special event, which is in line with TechCrunch's previous report that Instagram is launching long-form video support. Sources tell TechCrunch that Instagram will let creators upload 4K, full-screen, vertically oriented videos, which will be available from a centralized hub with curated popular videos. Social media stars and publishers are both rumored partners for the June 20th reveal.
Are you receiving the packets of this podcast? Because the Open Internet Guidelines of 2015 are no longer in force in the United States as of Monday. If you do have complaints about anti-competitive behavior by your ISP, you now make them to the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, not the FCC. The FTC generally limits its investigations to antitrust matters, though. Keep that in mind. Many U.S. states have been enacting their own methods of ensuring net neutrality, and a group of 22 states have sued the FCC over the repeal. A federal appeals court in Washington has not set a date for oral arguments. There's also a movement in the U.S. House right now to overturn the FCC's decision. But as of right now, there are no guarantees of net neutrality in the United States.
Chaos!
Let's talk a little bit more about Apple.
Apple has added a new language to its App Store review guidelines that state that third-party advertisements in apps, quote, may not run unrelated background processes such as cryptocurrency mining, end quote. Another section states that apps may not mine directly for cryptocurrencies unless the mining is performed in the cloud or otherwise off device. Apple also said the transactions of cryptocurrency must be carried out by an approved exchange, and ICOs must be handled by approved financial institutions. And apps may not use cryptocurrency as a reward for downloading other apps or promoting apps on social networks.
Yeah, so the previous guidelines pretty much just said you can use cryptocurrency in your app as long as you don't break any laws. But Apple's getting more specific about this because the laws aren't really keeping up with the practices, and they don't want the crypto mining advertisement that says, hey, we'll give you this free thing if you let us use your spare cycles to mine coin. Even though there's nothing illegal with that, Apple's like, no, we just don't want to get into that because sometimes people don't realize what that means. It can probably make the experience of using the phone worse, et cetera, et cetera. Is my
guess. It sounds to me like it's not so much Apple saying, we know it's best for you. If you want this company or this app to mine cryptocurrency in the background, we don't want you to do it. It's more that for the general public of their App Store customers, too many people are confused by what this means.
Certainly so. And also, we are now seeing more cryptocurrencies that can be effectively mined from phone data processors.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
That is something that is coming more to prominence. And Apple has taken this kind of stance with intrusive ads before when they allowed ad blockers and stuff on. These are kind of baseline things that they want to safeguard general app performance for the randos who have the phones.
Yeah, I mean, the Apple way of doing things has always been, we'll tell you what's okay, not the Google way and the general internet way until recently, which was let everything in, and then if it causes a problem, then we'll crack down on it.
The market will decide.
Yeah, Apple will decide in Apple's universe. And that's why they're like, look, cryptocurrencies can be used. They just have to be approved. We have to say like, oh yeah, Bitcoin, that's fine. Monero, nah, maybe not.
Yeah.
So I actually don't know if Monero's on the prohibited list or not, but they will decide what's okay. And ICOs is another big one I know, where there are a lot of scams that run as if they are ICOs. So again, Apple says, we're not going to try to figure out which ones are scams and which ones aren't. We'll just whitelist it. And if it's an actual financial institution, then we'll let it happen.
Yeah.
At E3, Microsoft announced 5 new gaming studios will join Microsoft Studios to help boost the number of first-party games available. That's been one of the dings on the Xbox. Microsoft is acquiring Undead Labs, Playground Games, Ninja Theory, and Compulsion Games. Forza Horizon is one of the games made in that group. And Microsoft's launching a brand new studio in Santa Monica that'll be led by Daryl Gallagher, former head of Crystal Dynamics. That one's called The Initiative. Microsoft also announced a new Halo game coming called Halo Infinite. Gears 5 will be out next year. They didn't give a Halo date, by the way. Gears Pop will be a mobile game of Gears of War with Funko Pops.
Sounds legit.
Yeah. So anyway, generally Microsoft didn't offend anyone in its E3 announcement is sort of the temperature that I keep taking. People excited about a few things. A couple of the announcements laid flat, but mostly people are like, yeah, they did fine.
Well, I think that, look, they effectively conceded this console generation. They said Sony won. And so now we're looking forward. And so that's why all these announcements were about the things that are going to come. Look at all the big, exciting seeds we are planting so we can then harvest in the normal game cycle of 1 to 2 years.
How many Halos are we up to at this point?
Oh gosh, I haven't kept
I
count.
mean, Halo Infinite is like, it feels like the
5.
Infinite.
We're up to
We're at plus infinity.
5, Roger, is that right?
5.
Not counting like split. There's some titles.
I'm
where
not
they
talking
have-
about any of the
DLC.
spin-offs or the RTS. I think there's 5 actual Halo games. I think Halo
Halo.
Guardians, the most recent one.
But it is the spin-offs and RTS and stuff that kind of give it the impression of being infinite. And now,
Yes,
Halo Infinite. We'll talk a lot with Patrick Beja tomorrow about generally how E3 is going, but Microsoft was sort of first into the pool of what is considered to be a very game-centric year. I wouldn't say it's a down year, but a year where you're going to care if you're into video games about the video games, but there are no wider announcements, no new hardware. Certainly Microsoft has learned its lesson about trying to be an entertainment center at the Entertainment and Electronics and Entertainment Expo. It's strongly about games, and that's what we expect from Sony later today, and that's what we expect from Nintendo and Nintendo Direct, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I've never covered E3 as extensively as a lot of our peers have, but I've certainly been there in the past. And I know that the last few years, maybe not last year, but let's say the last 5 years, you had kind of E3 journalist veterans complaining like, it's not so much about games anymore. It's kind of all this media center stuff, and it feels like it's losing some centralized theme. So maybe the pendulum is swinging back a little bit more, and Microsoft saying there are some really cool indie companies. We want them under our umbrella. Not going to ruin anything. If anything, they're going to get more exposure, and it probably is good news to a lot of gaming.
Really, they just need to have 1 or 2 really out of the ballpark titles to get people excited. I mean, this is an entertainment industry. To get people to go into your walled garden, you're going to have to dangle out some really awesome candy. And Sony has managed to do that with the PlayStation 4 and with, their first party titles from like Naughty Dog, whether it's Uncharted or the Last of Us, things, they're dangling things that people want to play. And Microsoft really hasn't done that. It's kind of odd because Microsoft in the way was the antithesis of Nintendo, where Nintendo was all first party. Microsoft was like first party. All right, there's a bunch of third parties. We'll let them kind of coast on their coattails for a while and see how far we get or didn't get.
Yeah, and Microsoft Xbox in general has kind of always been, from the moment that Satya Nadella ascended in Microsoft, was always kind of the weird, unloved child. There were the rumors initially that Xbox might have been sold out or spun off from Microsoft proper. So, who knows where we go from here, but it seems like they are delving back into kind of the core product. The one other thing that I will say is that, look, video games are pop culture now. And I think that that's what they've learned, is that if you look at the world of entertainment set-top boxes, that's a commoditized field at this point. You can get it on your television. You're never going to get any cheaper than it comes with the TV that you buy. So now steering back into games, I think, is really the right move.
Yeah, and the Xbox division, I think those fears about Satya Nadella were overblown. I think he's like, I'm going to leave that to Phil because he's really good at that. And he has been. And Xbox is one of the main drivers of revenue for Microsoft now.
Facebook launched a dedicated page called Memories, an expanded collection. Current features such as On This Day are included, and other memories previously pushed to your friends' timelines, or maybe even your own. Not judging you, people that always push your memories at me. Memories will be available through the Memories bookmark, either to the left of the newsfeed on the desktop or in the More tab in the bottom right of the mobile app, through notifications and messages in the newsfeed, and through facebook.com/memories. Now, I sort of joked a second ago about people pushing their memories on me, but it's one of the things I like the least about Facebook. And it's not because I don't think it's a nice tool. I just find that other people's memories that don't involve me are not usually very relevant to me. Now, it doesn't mean that Facebook's saying, we know everybody hates this and now it's just going to be all funneled towards a separate section. It's just Facebook saying, here's a better way for you to see all these memories and to maybe think it's a little bit more fun. I suspect that they have a lot of negative feedback from people because it is very spammy.
It's not narcissistic. It's, you had to be there and I wasn't. So it doesn't mean much to me to have this.
And I mean, even sort of like friend-iversary stuff where someone's like, hey, Sarah and I became friends on Facebook 8 years ago. that involves me. And I'm usually like, yeah, 8 years, huh? But there are certain updates that I think really appeal to certain folks and not others. And so Facebook is probably reading the tea leaves a little bit and figuring out where to funnel this stuff.
And what I think this move is that you're right. It doesn't really interest you if you publish to the rest of your friend graph that something happened at some point. It does matter when you can look back and deep dive and explore your history that Facebook has recorded. And so if this is more about, oh, on this day I did that, oh, okay, I can privately process. Even one of the biggest criticisms with their memories is that Facebook doesn't discriminate between the time that you had a painful breakup and the time that you had the best day of your life, right? They're just going by likes and interaction.
That's why I uninstalled Time Hop, because there were just too many times where I was like, yeah, that was...
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
And the memories feature includes controls to adjust what content you want to see, because they do realize, you don't want to be reminded like, hey, remember 5 years ago when, someone you really cared about died or your relationship ended? Like, they're going to give you some control over that because, I'll
be curious to see exactly how effective that is.
Me too.
Unless you're tagging posts, never show me again. Please throw it down the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind memory hole.
This is where those of you worried about the algorithm should realize if the algorithm can't keep those away from you, it's still not there yet.
Yeah.
If it was an inspirational quote, you don't need to remind me that you posted it.
Absolutely. The US Department of Energy's Oak Ridge National Laboratory unveiled the new Summit supercomputer Friday, rated to perform at 200,000 trillion calculations per second, or 200 petaflops. That puts it in front of China's 93 petaflop Taihu Lite, which had been the world's fastest since 2016. Summit was built with IBM Power 9 CPUs and NVIDIA Tesla V100 GPUs. It'll be used for research in fields including energy, health, advanced materials, and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and anybody who follows supercomputers, exascale is the big word. You want to get a supercomputer that can work at exascale, beyond just petaflops. And there are this is in the supercomputer world, sort of the puffery language. They're like, it can achieve exascale type speeds in certain instances.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of interesting things going on here. One is US taking back the top. And there's been a race for years now between China and the US about who's going to have the fastest supercomputers. And honestly, it's a good race because they keep pushing each other and we keep getting these more powerful computers. And we forget when it's common for people to say like, yeah, I have a supercomputer in my pocket. It's like, well, you have what was a supercomputer in the 80s in your pocket. A supercomputer now is better than that.
Yeah.
And can do things that no other computer on earth can do in a short time. So diagnosis of new diseases is something that a 200 petaflop supercomputer might be able to do and cure something, or at least provide the information to lead to a cure that was impossible before this. AI that can actually make advances in AI, not by tricks or programming efficiencies, but because of the sheer immense horsepower that gives it the ability to do more calculations per second. So this is huge for lots of really deep research.
And now with artificial intelligence, I feel like we have we were talking earlier today about this being kind of a space race type concept.
A lot of people describe it as that, with exascale being the moon landing.
And I think that now part of what brings in the rest of the world is going to be the idea of like, oh, wait, no, machine learning. I have a general idea that machine learning, the faster it can learn things and the more we can feed it, the better it's going to be, the better AI is going to be. And that's something where I feel like now we're not just talking about this general idea, this capacity that we're building for who knows what. There are specific, understandable by the baseline consumer of this kind of news, understanding of what this would be used for.
And we will see this one get passed. It may be a couple of years yet. And we may not be in the US. It may not be Lawrence Livermore. It may not be Oak Ridge. It may be another Taihu or something like it. But I would like to see even more countries get involved in this. This to me is a positive way for countries to compete and push each other.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of the research that comes out of these supercomputers is shared in the academic community, not hoarded in proprietary ways, which I almost am tempted to say, unlike Google and Facebook and those guys. But honestly, as far as AI goes, Google and Facebook have been very good about open sourcing most, if not all, of what they do there.
Also, let's remember this day, June 11th, 2018, as the day that we had the petaflop supercomputer story. So in a decade, everyone will go, remember when that was a super?
Remember when 200 petaflops used to be real fast?
Exactly.
My iPhone 13 is an exaflop.
I've got 200 petaflops on my wallet clip.
There's probably a Facebook memory of me like touting some 50 petaflop computer on Buzz Out Loud back in the day. So there you go.
I mean, my first computer had like 12 megabytes of RAM or something like that.
Microsoft is accepting pre-orders in the UK and the US for its $100 Xbox adaptive controller, with shipping beginning August 3rd. We've talked about this on the show before. The adaptive controller is designed for accessibility. 2 large programmable buttons, 19 jacks that be connected to peripherals like joysticks, buttons, and switches. And I like to see that this was getting a lot of play out of the E3 news. One of the reasons is it's one of the few hardware pieces of news coming out of E3, but also more accessibility for gaming is a positive thing because it brings more gamers into the world.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've talked about it a little bit, but I think that the more that you can have the ability to see people interact with it, and I'll be curious to see, because it's now a platform, right? Like it's something that you can build specific tools for.
And I'm wondering if there's any other types of devices that aren't getting the attention because this is Microsoft that this is getting. And especially want to know if there's anybody that's using this once it goes on sale. It's not going to start hitting stores until September, but you can order it from the Microsoft store now. And the first shipping dates were August 3rd. They may have slipped by now if they've sold a bunch of them. But if anybody does use this, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. I'd like to hear more about it for sure.
Yeah, even accessibility obviously is the focus here. But with 19 jacks, I'd be interested to see, you know, what somebody decides, this is my rig. I've figured it out because there are a lot of peripherals that you can add to your gaming experience, and whether it's accessibility that you actually need or it's just the way that you like to work, lots of options.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, you guys want to talk about hip hop?
Yeah,
I know you do. I know Tom does. Music Business Worldwide reports that Apple has hired Ryan Newman, the editor for the BBC's hip hop and grime focused. Grime is very popular UK sort of hip hop music genre. One extra. To bring his expertise to Apple Music. Now, not the first time this has happened. Apple previously recruited Radio 1's Zane Lowe, very well-known DJ and also I don't know, interviews everybody these days on the Apple Music channel Beats One. Also worth noting that Austin Dabo, formerly of Radio 1, is now senior editor for Spotify's UK programming. So kind of an interesting trend going on where Spotify and Apple Music, obviously kind of the two front runners, but music services are piggybacking on DJ and music personalities' own kind of curated audience to beef up their cred.
Well, I think it makes sense that they are pulling from BBC Radio because there are few places that radio means as much as it does in the UK, and because of BBC Radio, it is listened to by so many. Their radio culture there, I think, is interesting and different. Where in America, it's a little bit more diffuse and regionalized. So in an odd way, I feel like they are kind of leading the way programming wise, because they can do things that isn't possible in the American radio market. But I don't know. I mean, like Zane Lowe, I thought was a really, really smart hire for Apple initially. And he did like one Drake interview that I listened to. And then it feels like although I'm a happy Apple Music subscriber, I feel like I have not gotten a lot out of their radio feature aside from that initial buzz.
I'm with you. And I use Apple Music on a daily basis. And there are certain playlists, like there's the, kind of that's called like A1 hip hop or whatever. And I'm always playing that because they rotate through a lot of songs that I might not find otherwise. But yeah, the DJ stations, sometimes there'll be an interview where I'm interested, or sometimes there'll be sort of a guest DJ, or there are certain kind of appointment viewing things that Apple Music, and I know Spotify does this as well, draws me in. but I miss most of it.
Yeah, and I just don't feel like they have I gotta listen every day content. Like and I don't know what, or if they want that. Like I would assume they did. They made a real big deal about Beats One Radio when it launched.
And it's still going, and they haven't fired Zane Lowe. Instead, they've gone and hired another BBC radio programmer, DJ.
Right.
So my guess,
One
without
would
knowing
assume
anything
it's
else,
going
is
well enough to
there may not be working for you, but it must be working for somebody.
It's got to be working for somebody. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I would like to see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just old. Maybe all the kids are on Beats One.
No, that's funny because when I'm thinking about this story, the general principle I pull out of it is I would have thought radio DJs would be a dying art relegated to super niche areas, right?
Yeah.
It was always, when I was coming up in radio, the assumption was, yeah, you might get lucky and become a Rick Dees, but you probably won't. So if you want to have a lucrative career, you might want to try something else. And what this is showing is you still, in the world of algorithms and Pandora, where everyone is like, oh, Spotify can make a playlist that's perfect for you, there's still value being put on human curation. And your resistance to this kind of tempers my enthusiasm, because I'm like, well, maybe they're just betting on it and pouring more money after bad, good money after bad. I don't know. But if they're right, and they're like, no, we're seeing the return. People like Beats One better than the algorithmic playlist. People want to have a grime station that is programmed by somebody that really knows this space. Then this is an example of what I've been saying for a long time, which is the robots won't replace you. The robots will give you the latitude to pay people to do really high quality work.
And I will think that I think that there are two different elements about radio that are there, and they're both kind of on the ascendancy in their own ways. One is obviously music, finding music that you like from people that you want to, that you are investing as tastemakers. The second is the talk element, the personality element. And that I think is also on the ascendancy. You've seen, a cultural relevance for shows like The Breakfast Club or the Dan Le Batard Show on the sports side. They're becoming more and more reliable draws as television properties. So these things in the shattering monoculture, radio personalities, which are always the ones that kind of build the tribes, are on the rise. So who knows?
I don't know. There's something about the fact that, and I'm just putting this together right now, so it's not a fully formed thought, but there's something about the fact that when someone gives you a recommendation in context, it works so much better. Yeah. So if someone explains to you, let me explain what Dunkirk was historically, then shows you the Dunkirk trailer, you're way more likely to be interested in seeing that movie than if someone just said, hey, there's a movie about Dunkirk, some World War II thing. And you're like, I'm not really into World War II. Same thing with music. If a really good DJ puts the song in context before you plays it and tells you a little bit about the artist, going back Casey Kasem style, American Top 40, you're more likely to listen closely and maybe like that song than you would have if they're just play it cold in some automated playlist.
And I think, Justin, you were hitting on this earlier, is that there may be an age thing here, but I know for me, I still listen to terrestrial radio. Certain stations, I know what's happening. Morning Becomes Eclectic is on a local station here in LA, and I love that show. And I listen to all the stuff that they play, even though it's not up to me. When Pandora came along, it was like, well, it's kind of, a little bit more algorithmic, but still you don't really know what you're getting. And then we got streaming music services where it's like, I know what I can get and I don't really need to rely on this. So it's a little hard for me to use the same format because I've supposedly gotten a solution for the way that things used to be. But I think perhaps younger or just folks that have different musical tastes don't necessarily see it that way. Having a curated DJ session on Beats One on Apple Music is just as good as radio, if not better.
Maybe we need a Ryan Newman for news. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines, available on the Anchor app, also on Amazon Echo and the Google Home.
Thanks thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. Submit stories and also vote on them to, let us know what you want to hear more about. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We also have a Facebook group, facebook.com/group/dailytechnewsshow.
And we know it's like 80s era technology, but we still read those electronic mail messages from
Yeah, we do. We don't even send them to spam. Michael in rainy season Yokohama, as he describes it, has some thoughts on our Japan Airbnb story from Friday, where a lot of Airbnbs were getting shut down. Michael says, one of my jobs is actually helping tourists get baseball and those kinds of tickets when they're visiting Japan. And the Airbnb regulation changes are hitting my customers big time. My services didn't used to serve Airbnb customers specifically, but when I started doing this a few years ago, a lot of the hosts were actually holding companies not necessarily complying with their building's rental agreements. Because our guest names aren't on the box number for the room, sometimes delivery of tickets to the Airbnb were failed or denied, even when a host agreed to accept a package for a guest. I don't think they knew what they were agreeing to, and so they weren't always accepting registered mail. I eventually worked with the Japan Post to have customers pick up their packages of tickets at, say, a local post office. I can usually get them close despite many Airbnb hosts not giving a complete address. But because of the hassle, I'm getting emails from people who are just changing their plans. And I have a feeling that this next week is going to be busy redirecting packages.
What were the changes? I did not catch up on this.
Basically, you had to be registered. And the story we mentioned the other day was that if you weren't registered already and you had bookings after June 15th, you had to cancel those bookings.
Wow. Okay. So, because we stayed in Japan on an Airbnb, and it was a great thing, but they were very cagey. Our host was very clear to not talk to anybody else in the building.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you get that in the States, too.
And Michael was very circumspect in talking about his service, but I'm familiar with it because I didn't realize he was a Buzz Out Loud listener back then, but I looked up japanball.com as a possible way to go to Japan.
Oh, nice.
And Japan Ball is in partnership with Bob Bavasi, a former GM from Major League Baseball, and they do baseball tours of Japan.
Oh, nice.
So anyway, Michael didn't ask for the plug, but I'm going to give it anyway. You might want to check out japanball.com.
Well, thanks, Michael. And also thanks to Justin Robert Young for being with us in person at Tom's Daily Tech News Show headquarters. What's been going on with you? Did you have a fun weekend?
We did, yeah. Thank you to every Daily Tech News Show listener who came out to our Night Attack live shows. Brian and I did shows in San Diego and Los Angeles over the last 2 days. It was a blast to see everybody. We had great crowds. So thank you for everybody who did that. But if you want to keep up with the political side of the world, freepoliticalnewsletter.com is where you need to go. A lot of stuff happening, including out in the Pacific Rim, the big Trump-UN summit going on as we speak. So go ahead and get some links, some hot takes, and a few gifts, mostly from the Chappelle Show.
Absolutely. Go check that out. And I echo the thanks. So many cool people at the Night Attack Show, and so many more DTNS listeners than I expected. It was awesome.
Oh, yeah. No, totally. It was a blast. So
fantastic.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks to everybody who came up and said hi. Even one person who's like, I didn't say hi the last time I was at Nerdtacular, so I made myself say hi. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice
it's always better when you say hi.
And folks, don't forget that we are supported by patrons. If you are giving us $1 a month or more, thank you for making it possible for us to keep doing the show. We always want to have at least one more patron than last month, though. So if you haven't supported us, it's $1. If you get $1's worth of value out of the show, we'd love to have it. Patreon.com/DTNS. And the other way we fund the show for people who just want some cool gear is with our store, dailytechnewsshow.com/store. Has hats and t-shirts and hoodies and even onesies and all kinds of cool stuff. So check that out too, dailytechnewsshow.com/store.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. That's an easy way to get a hold of us, although you have other options. We are also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. If you want to find out more, I will tell you where to go. dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with some E3 commentary from Patrick Beja. He's been working hard covering it. We'll hear from him and the rest of us tomorrow. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Sure have, Diamond Club. Sam, are
Oh,
you going to
and
do this
thanks
in
to
every
Biocow.
show? Just waltz in and start howling? Nobody likes that.
I should have mentioned BioCow gave me one of the light up Diamond Club signs for the set back there.
Ooh.
Also, people wanted me to do this, Justin. Oh, you can't see it.
Oh wait,
Yes,
why? What
They,
happened?
they wanted me to prove that you're,
You're not a
real.
hologram?
You're. This is
Look at
not
that.
green screen.
Real guy.
Folks.
He's been working on this mime stuff for months now to sell this Pepper's ghost illusion.
Justin really
Justin's
looked
ghost.
lifelike.
Doesn't he though?
He
it's
does.
the eyebrows. I worked really
Yeah.
hard on the
It
eyebrows.
is, yeah.
No, it's good. You've really worked on that composite.
So, what do you think about a title for this show? By the way, this show was great. But not that I don't expect all of our shows to be great, but it was the kind of news day where I'm like, nah, we'll see where we go, and we went some really cool places that I didn't anticipate. So
Yeah,
went there.
I agree with you. I sometimes, between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., a lot tends to sort of fall into place.
Yeah.
Every day is different. But yeah, this morning I was sort of like, besides E3, what do we got?
If we
And
don't
it,
wanna
and it
talk
worked
video
itself
games,
out.
what's
Yeah.
left? And turns out lots.
Yeah.
Lots, big lots.
Yes, which is a sponsor.
No, it's not. We don't have sponsors.
Well, except for Big Lots, those great values at Big Lots. Going on over there.
Go ahead and try and use a promo code.
use
See if it
promo
works.
code DTNS at your physical checkout, and they will give your entire order to you for free.
They will
Now,
give you someone
this is-
else's.
This is
You'll even
one
get
of my many dumb questions about large chain stores because they frighten me. Is a Big Lots the same as a Home Depot?
No,
Oh, what is it?
they're two different stores. Well, Big Lots, I think.
Well, I know
is-
it's a different store, but the same idea. Home improvement.
You
it's
want to
just
know
a-
what? I don't know. I
thought
always
Big
thought
Lots
Big Lots
was a
was more of a
big,
Costco.
Oh, okay. So Big Lots. What are the lots?
I always thought
guess
it was like a
in my mind. I was like, Big Lot sounds like
You know how like a
home
Costco
parcel.
you buy a big thing of toilet paper? It's
Okay.
a lot.
Yeah.
That's a big lot of toilet paper.
Well, okay. I really thought it was like house lots.
Well, yeah, I think it I think it comes from a retail term, like a wholesale term, more technically.
Mm-hmm.
A lot being a large amount of something. They have deals on furniture, patio mattresses.
Okay, so I guess they're like everything at Costco that's not food.
Kind of, yeah.
It's
Yeah. See, I can't. You know how there's this. I don't
Yeah,
know the name.
Absolutely
of it.
not sponsored by them. Don't go
No,
to
we're
Big
not.
Don't
Lots.
go to Big Lots.
If we were
In
sponsored,
fact,
I wouldn't
screw
say
Big
things
Lots.
like it frightens me.
I just want to make that clear.
Throw a brick through Big Lots'
Don't throw a
windows.
brick- Don't throw a brick through anybody's windows.
Oh, sorry.
I don't
Did
think they
I
have
got a little
windows.
too-
It's just
Well,
it's the door.
speaking of, we were briefly talking about reality programming, and the Real World came up before the show on Good Day Internet.
Yeah.
There was the San Diego Real World crew where one of the girls, who actually has since passed away, she had a known affliction where she was afraid of large boats.
Oh,
And when
Like
you
the-
live in San Diego, at least where
Yeah.
there's, it was an issue. Like if she
More
saw a
boats.
cruise ship, she was, crippled with fear. And there's a term for it. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a real thing. And I feel that way about large stores. I'm not
Really?
actually like going to be crippled,
Oh wait, so
but
do
I
you have
want to avoid them always.
big fears about large stadiums? Like any
big
large
fears about Big Lots.
I don't really go to a lot of large stadiums, but it's a Costco, a Kmart, a
Well,
Walmart.
but
a-
you
Whoa,
were-
hold on. What do you think of candy dangling? Or perhaps we can remember it for you wholesale.
I don't even know what that question means.
I'm just picking a title.
Oh.
Oh,
It's like, what does that have to do with Costco candy dangling? I don't like that either.
Memories like the
dangling?
corners
Wait,
of
what
my
does candy
feet.
dangling mean?
Remember, I kept mentioning that Microsoft needs to dangle some really good game
Oh,
candy.
I see. Got it. Oh, that's good.
Gotcha. All right.
Could we say Microsoft candy dangling? That could, I don't know.
How
So
about
give
keep
more
your memories
context?
to yourself?
that's
I
a
like
pretty
that.
good
That's
one.
good.
I was thinking we could remember it for your wholesale too, which is a Philip K. Dick novel, and it's the one Total Recall was based on.
Which one? We can remember for you wholesale. Going
No,
once?
I was saying I recognize that.
Keep your memories to yourself. Going once, going twice.
Going. That's it.
Sold.
Sold.
Go,
DTNS.
go. So wait, Sarah,
Oh,
you
man,
were.
do your
I would
side.
often see in your Instagrams and social media that you were a Giants live. You would go to Giants games
All the time when I lived there. Yeah.
Yeah, when you lived there. Like, so did that not freak you out?
No, it's not. Well, I mean, it depends on the crowd, right? It's not crowds.
Mhm, mhm.
It's not
Okay.
sporting arenas that bother me. It's not even really like a large music festival, even though I don't go to those very often, but it's not because of my fear of people. There's something about large stores where things are stacked really high and there's so much peanut butter and then they just like sell a tractor and it's like it's overwhelming and I can't deal with them.
Gotcha.
Those peanut butter tractors, they're the
You
worst.
have shopping overload. Kind
So
of.
It's more, yeah, it's more of the, and my mom, you know, she loves Costco. And this is like, you know, I mean, she's eating for one. So it has nothing to do with like, you're having to like, you know, like feed all these people necessarily. Although I know their stores are really good for people who got a lot of stuff to buy at one time. And it's like the superstore,
Yeah.
but they give me like low grade panic attacks.
Eileen does not like big crowded stores either. I do all the grocery shopping because when I make her come with me, she just gets irritable because of the store. She just doesn't like be there. And she doesn't like Costco either, same reason. But she also loves going to baseball games and music festivals and stuff like that.
I will say that a Costco crowd on a Sunday makes me want to bring a scimitar and slice people.
Yeah, I'm more like that. Like I get frustrated with just like people getting in your way and stuff, but I think that's different from what Sarah's describing.
It's not the crowdedness aspect of it. If it were an empty Costco, it would bother me the same way.
Is it the enormity of like having?
It's all of the like, how do they get all that stuff up there? And I need a forklift, and there's too much. Everything's very big.
Almost like a claustrophobia, but that's not quite the right word for it.
Yeah.
No, it's
I think what I'm
infrastructure phobia.
sensing, what I'm sensing from you, Sarah, is that it's just as much about the idea of the store as it is anything else.
Even though the idea of the store sounds great, it's convenient. You know, one-stop shopping. You got everything. You need a swimsuit. You need the new plates
Steaks,
or whatever.
You need ramen.
Right. Got some socks. All of it.
They don't do ramen
Bottle of
very well.
liquor.
But that's kind of, I'm still on some weird mom and pop hardware store thing, where I'll just.
Oh, you don't go to Home Depot or Lowe's?
I've never been to a Home Depot or a Lowe's.
Well, I think what you're trying to say, Sarah, is you were born in a small town, probably die in a small town. LA Darlin brought her to this small town. Now she's a small town, just like me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right.
Yeah. Little pink houses.
That America. No, that's a different song.
Jack and Diane.
Yeah. Love those two. They were just simple kids.
Jack and Diane.
Yes, they can.
Well, it's funny. It's like I don't know what's wrong with me, because one might say, well, you must love Amazon then, right? So you can avoid a lot of these stores if you really don't want to go.
Sure.
But I don't like Amazon either. I just want to go to little stores and make my life harder for myself.
You know why? No, you don't like it because it has such a wide choice. You kind of have to work.
I'm crippled by choice.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
That's a real thing for a lot of stores that offer too much
Yeah.
selection.
There was a moment when, and this is another Go Game story, but I was with a bunch of the other game runners and we were discussing travel tips, basically. Like we're trying to share with each other, create a knowledge base of things that we did travel wise that can make our life easier. And what we found out very quickly is that everybody has their own process and nobody wanted to change at all. Right? They just had the thing that they did and that's what they did. And I'm kind of sensing that, it's like, hey, look, shopping is a pain in the butt. It involves a lot of things that we don't like to do, making decisions, spending money, determining the future. Like these are all things that are kind of frustrating to do. And yet our pathways, be them mental or emotional, that we forge, we are going to stick to them, because the only thing more painful than doing this painful thing over and over again is trying to think of a new way to do this painful thing.
I actually got to a point, and I know Foursquare and Swarm now is not necessarily as ubiquitous as it used to be, but when I would travel, I started to get kind of obsessed with like, okay, I'm in a new city. let's say it's, London, where I'm like, I want like the coolest coffee in whatever neighborhood I'm in, and so I'd look it up and then there's like 5 different choices. And then I'm reading all the reviews. And I'm trying to figure out like, well, okay, with all the knowledge that I've just received, like, where do I go? And it started to, like get overwhelming where
it's choice paralysis.
It is where you're like, I really want to make it like the best choice, but you also know that no one's really you. And so how can you really choose based on everybody?
It's a mixture of fear of opportunity lost with trying to make a decision being overwhelmed with like just details.
Right.
So when we went to London, we wound up doing the exact same thing that you just said, Sarah. Ashley and I were like, let's find the nicest place, and she's vegan, so we got to find a vegan place, somewhere with vegan options. And so we do all of our research, and we walk into this cafe, and we're like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is a hip cafe. Kind of looks like every cafe that we go to normally in the Bay Area. That we walked in, and there were pictures of the San Francisco Giants on the wall, and the bartender was wearing a Yankees hat. It's like,
like look at what we did.
Look at what we did. Look, we put all this effort. We went around the world, and we went to the exact same restaurant that we always go to.
Kind of weird every time I've traveled overseas, I've always gone with someone who's lived there, and so I've always just pick, what I can and cannot eat, and what I do and do not like. Just I'll go wherever.
Well, and that's, it's a little bit of that throwback thing. When I mean, I'm sure I'll be, obsessively looking at coffee shops in an unfamiliar city sometime down the road. But I've kind of gone back to like, you know what? I'm just going to walk down the street and stop looking at Google Street View all the time before I go anywhere, so that by the time I get there, I've already seen it. It's like
Eileen looks at Foursquare to get like some big recommendations, so we'll always have a couple places to hit. But then the rest of the time we just want to leave for wandering and just like running into and discovering.
That's even if you kind of get a dud here and there, it's like that's part of the adventure. Depends on where you are, obviously.
I will give like top marks to my niece-in-law because when we went down to Mossvale, which is a tiny place in Australia, her recommendations were invaluable because it's funny. There were limited enough options that it didn't become paralysis of choice, but we're like, I see 3 restaurants. Which one should we pick? And she always was like, oh, you want to go, if you want this Indian food, go here. If you want this, go here. And so it's nice to have a guide in that narrow circumstance. Like
that. Yeah. It'd be if any of you were to visit my hometown and were to say, of the 2 sushi restaurants, which is the good one? It's like, I know where you should go.
Yeah.
There's a good one and there's a bad one. And you won't necessarily know that, but again, it's a smaller pool overall. Actually, I can't say the sushi place is still around.
Actually, no, for my parents' hometown, because all the restaurants I used to like no longer exist, or they changed hands and they suck.
We're gonna bid adieu to our live video stream. Thanks, folks, for watching us on YouTube, whether it's live or not. Actually.
Yes.
Remember to wash your hands before you eat. See you tomorrow.
That's good advice.